Welcome to the Keelhauled Podcast. I'm your host, CaptainLogun, and we've got a little bit of Sea of Thieves news to cover today. So tie yourselves to the mast and hold fast. Ahoy there, pirates. I hope you had yourselves a good week and a good weekend. I know I did. And in fact, the reason this episode is going to be solo, no, it's always solo, not low or high either. The reason it's going to be short on news is because I was actually gone this weekend. So there's a little bit to cover in a Sea of Thieves news update, as well as an idea that I had thanks to Fortnite. All that and more in this week's episode of Keelhauled Podcast. First on today's docket, I hope you guys are all having a good week and a good weekend. I just came back from a trip to Vegas over the weekend, so I'm a little rushed for time, which is why this is going to be a little bit of a shorter episode. But I got to go and see a concert with an old friend of mine that was doing an orchestral version of Avatar: The Last Airbender series with a live orchestra, and it was really fantastic. If you like that series, you know what I'm talking about with some of the songs. Even if I didn't get to hear Secret Tunnel, I still had a really good time. But that's why I'm getting into the shorter episode. So there's not a whole lot. There's not a lot to cover. We did get a Sea of Thieves news update. So that's always nice to kind of let us know what it is that Rare's been working on that's coming to the Emporium, because that is, of course, the main reason why they put out a lot of these videos, especially for the update. So Daryl gave us a nice video kind of showcasing the update that's coming on November 13th. So that is going to actually be this coming Thursday. So just as a reminder there, updates always may or may not have some issues. Just, be prepared for day one in that case. But this is going to bring the weapon swap and the faster readying speed for the weapons. So just be aware that, a lot of you guys had some really good thoughts on the change to the meat ring last week. I really appreciated the thoughts and conversation there. I think everyone kind of agrees that something could be done to change things up, and obviously we'll have to see how things go with this weapon swap to see just how nasty it's going to be, if at all. It may not be nasty at all, in which case that's great, because then it will just kind of even the playing field for everyone. But just as a reminder, I figured I'd give you all a heads up that is coming out, this update. We're also going to be getting the purple Resolute hull, sails, and flag coming to the shipwrights, as well as the Regal Hound equipment and instruments. So the arena set stuff there are all coming to the outposts. If you want to buy those for gold, that should be available there. There's also the False King's Ransom stuff, which is going to be the clothing, the weapons, and the ship liveries. Those are going to be the Emporium content, and as always, it looks amazing, and of course it's going to be real money stuff. It's interesting because I feel like the False King stuff, it looks like what I would expect the Obsidian set to look like after a refresh. Like if they went back and did the Obsidian set and they're like, hey, we want to do a refresh, we want to gussy it up, this is what it would look like, because it's really beautiful and really kind of hones in on that green and black colored scheme, especially with the clothing. So that's going to be there, available if you want it. And there's also going to be a new freebie emote. So the Hear No Evil is going to be made free in the Pirate Emporium on this update as well, too. Again, that's going to be February 13th. So just as a quick heads up about that, you can head in there, grab your free emote, and then you can not listen to your crew members and actually look like you're not listening to your crew members in game. It's a really good way to kind of go AFK if you want. Twitch drops are coming on November 14th and through the 21st. They've already established, instead of kind of doing it in a retroactive fashion, that this will be for any Sea of Thieves partner. So if that is something that you like to do, if you have been out there working to get your streaming on and try and do that, that is going to be coming along at the beginning of the Friday or the beginning of the weekend. So nice to see that. With that, they are bringing in some of the or an interesting mercenary drop in this case. not mercenaries. No, I guess it is technically mercenary. Yeah, sorry. I am confusing myself because they call it the Amethyst set, but it's also the mercenary set. So as usual, we're getting the new roundup of Twitch drops. Any Sea of Thieves streamer can provide these to you as long as you're watching between the 14th and the 21st. The first 30 minutes is going to get you 75 grand in gold. I wish it was actually money. That'd be nice. 1 level of renown for those of you watching for an hour and you haven't hit 100. For 1.5 hours, you'll get that Voyage of Luck, which fingers crossed, you'll actually get it. For 2 hours, you get the Winded Brawler emote, which was part of the fighter emote pack that's in the Emporium. So actually, part of that's kind of nice. And for 3 hours, you'll get the Gilded Voyage of the Wilds, which yeah, it's a gilded voyage out in the wild. So be aware people are going to probably be out there hunting people who are working on it. And for 4 hours, you get the Gilded Phoenix Tankard, which has been offered in the past, quite a few ways, I should say. So just be advised for that. And then we get to the 5 hour mark. And this is the this is the Amethyst Mercenary Flag, which is the Twitch logo with a skull in the middle of it on a purple flag with white lettering or white logo. And I gotta say, I knew that the Amethyst stuff was always kind of around like Twitch. Like we, for those of you who have never bought a pet in Sea of Thieves, you may actually have gotten one for free when they released the Amethyst Capuchin. I think it was the Capuchin way back in the day. So you may actually have gotten a pet for free just through Twitch drops. But it was always one of those like, okay, the Amethyst stuff has always been tied to Twitch. Twitch's logos and stuff, their iconography is always purple. So it makes sense that they'd go with the Amethyst coloring. For 6 hours, you get the Thunderous Fury Sails, which is kind of that, I keep wanting to say Thrall, and I don't know why, because he has like, he's a shaman, but it's actually the Zeus stuff. I just don't know why Thrall is coming in my mind, but the Zeus holding the lightning bolt on the kind of Greek aesthetic sails are going to be there. You'll get that, and then not have the rest of it if you haven't already bought it in the Emporium. But if you have the Gilded Phoenix Tankard and you have the sails and you have the Winded Brawler emote, then realistically the newest thing for you is going to be the Amethyst Mercenary Flag. I don't think I actually have the Winded Brawler emote now that I think about it. I think that's one that I haven't picked up. So I'll definitely be watching at least for the 5 hours for the Amethyst Mercenary Flag, even though I always watch all the time. I never like skip out on one just in case. But if you don't want to watch anyone and you still want an emote, the good news is that if you have Xbox Game Pass, there are the in-game benefits. Now, I could be wrong about this because there's been a lot of changes to Game Pass recently, and I've talked about those in the past as well. But in the Xbox Game Pass in-game benefits, there is the Fancy Jig emote that is available. If you want to redeem this and get the code for it, you can go through your Xbox. Otherwise, you can redeem it through the Xbox app on your PC. There's no way for PlayStation fans to get this. There's just, you have to boot up a PC and have Xbox Game Pass, which if you bought Sea of Thieves for PlayStation, sorry, they decided not to do anything associated with that, which is wild to me because they have PS Plus rewards. Like if you have PS Plus, whether it's the Essential or the Premium or the what is the other one called? God, now I'm trying to remember what the other program is called. They have 3 tiers, and you'd think with 3 tiers I'd be able to remember what they are. Okay, I just looked it up. It's Essential, which is what I'm on because I just want the monthly games and access to be able to play Sea of Thieves on my PlayStation whenever I want, and cloud saves because we're in 2012 or 13. There's the extra and then the premium. So they have in in all three tiers, they have exclusive content that gives you like stuff like this. Like it is stuff that you can actually get, which is interesting to me because you look at World of Warships or something and Apex Legends and whatnot, and you're always getting stuff in there. Heck, I think you can get Season 2 PlayStation pack for Call of Duty if you're a Call of Duty. Like, it's wild that they just don't have this available for them. And Sea of Thieves is like one of those games that's just, it's crossplay now. So why doesn't Xbox make a deal with PlayStation? If they're going to put their games on there, you might as well offer the perks as well too. So, a little blind spot there, thanks to Microsoft or someone. But it is what it is. I feel bad for PlayStation fans because they're being done dirty. Not only is it not part of like Game Pass and you can't access it, but you also don't get access to the perks. It's just like, man, really. But again, I'm not the one that's I'm not running this joint. I don't know how much money it's taking or not taking, but I think it would be nice if they actually had access to that. But what do I know? I'm just a podcaster. So that effectively, that's it. I've turned I've turned like a 2-minute video into like a 12-minute podcast here. The one thing that I wanted to get into, and again, apologies for the shorter episode. It's literally that I'm exhausted. I had a really good time on my weekend, but I need to go and rest because I did a red eye and I left the concert early at intermission to get to my flight. And then I spent the next 13 hours in airports and flying, and hardly at probably about 4 to 5 hours of that was actually spent sleeping. So I was just wiped, and I'm still wiped, and I'm just trying to make sure I get enough sleep so I don't get a cold, because it's actually going to snow tomorrow. And it's the second time I've had to deal with snow in the last year, after living in California for like over a decade. So that'll be fun. Rambling on about my stuff. The one thing I wanted to bring up is a bit of a tease that I said at the start of the episode, forever ago when I first kicked up the recording, and it brings me back to the amethyst capuchin in a way. Pets are one of those interesting things that I recently found out that in Fortnite they just brought out pets. Now I already give Fortnite enough money to have them leave me alone for the rest of time, until they come out with their Tron stuff, where I can then go back and actually like purchase the OG Tron, Yuri, Sark, wherever it was that I skipped out on because I was just like, I'm not gonna do this. I want to get those back, but to get back to the point, Fortnite actually has pets now. Now Rare did this back in 2019, and it's nothing new, but there is something that I thought was really interesting to this. So in Fortnite, their sidekicks in Battle Royale can only be seen by your team. You can only see yours. You can only see your teams, and there's no interacting with them. And I actually think that that's really smart. I think that that's a smart way to go, because it's one thing to be in a battle royale when you're doing anything competitive and there's a chance for PvP, and you want to avoid being noticed or being caught out by something secondary, like a little pet or someone following you. You tend to find ways to work around that. And I actually think that the way that Rare has decided to go about, or not Rare, sorry, the way that they've decided to go about doing sidekicks is very smart. Having them be locked in as only visible to yourself and people on your crew or in your team for Fortnite's sake, I think would solve the problem that I think a lot of people have with pets in Sea of Thieves. Because if you see a pet, chances are, if it's not yours, you can ask your teammates, be like, hey, has anybody got a pet out right now? And if they say no, that's a tell. It's as much of a tell as a mermaid in the water. And I think a lot of people spend money on pets and then never put them out. Now, I'm not saying everyone. I said a lot of people. And it's always one of those things. I'm like, I got all these pets. I spend a lot of money on them. I like them, but I never bring them out for two reasons. One, they get in the way. So I would love to have an option to be able to turn off interactions with pets. It's fun to pick them up. It's fun to pet them. It's fun to stick them in a cannonball and shoot your teammate's pet out into the ocean for it to just magically appear. It's fun to see them kind of like doing their own thing on the ship. But I think the problem with that is if you get in a sticky situation that has nothing to do with anything that's actually sticky, then you don't want to get tripped up by your pet. You don't want to accidentally grab your pet while you're trying to open a crate or you're trying to grab a cannon. And that can be very frustrating because it's seconds of reaction time that are lost that could make or break a fight. Not often, that would be the case, but a plausible enough scenario to frustrate people to not using their pet. And I wholeheartedly agree with their sentiment around that. I would like to be able to not interact with my pets. Just have a toggle the way we have 18 toggles for all the other stuff that we have in the game. And just make sure that if I have a pet out, I can choose. And I think this would actually be a better way of going about it than having to stuff it in the settings menu. When you open up a pet chest, there will be all of your pets and all the pets' costumes, right? You go to select the pet that you want to pull out, and it gives you a quick prompt. Interactable, non-interactable. You can choose one or the others, like A or B. If you choose non-interactable, then it'll come out and you can then not interact with it, but it'll be around the ship doing its thing, and you can have it out. Which goes into the second part of this, which is where it comes into Fortnite, which is pets can only be seen by your crew and yourself. That way you can have your pet out, and it's just something that's enlightening your day. Nobody coming onto your boat can see the birds flying alongside your boat while you're sailing. As far as I know, it may be something that's like a per ship boat, but if you scope in on a ship, you're not going to see those birds. If they're flying next to a boat, they're not actually in the game. It's just an effect that is happening to give the illumination or the illusion of life in Sea of Thieves, right? Like having more atmosphere, having things like that. Like not everyone can see those birds while you're sailing by them. So I think it's interesting to have pets and want them to be interacted with, but people not using them because they tend to be a liability in combat and sneaking around, which is why they even introduced the whole dismiss pet in the actual menu, which goes to the next point of this is like, well, what do I do if I want to have my pet be interactable? All right, well, the answer's already there. It's in the settings. You can dismiss your pet in the My Crew section. You can go back to a pet chest. You can pick out that same pet and choose interactable. That way you can actually interact with it. Your crew can interact with it. And if you want to do an alliance, maybe even throw in the option to allow players to see it if they're in an alliance with you. That way there's active participation involved with giving your permission to have that tell. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. I really appreciated the feedback with the meat ring. I can't even, what was the other thing that I was talking about? Oh, the rag and bone crates. I appreciated the feedback for the rag and bone crates. I appreciated the feedback for the meat ring. Let me know what you think about the pets, because I would love to be able to have a reason to have my pet out and have it not be a liability, to be able to have it just about my ship for me and my crew, and we get to enjoy it. And I don't necessarily care if other people see it or not. It's like having the launch crew Eye of Reach. Like, how many other people are going to see that and then be like, oh my God, he was here during the first month of the game. It's so amazing. I'm jealous. Not going to happen. I'd be impressed if it happens. If it does happen, you are purposefully trying to like show off stuff like that. And you would have to be with someone who's totally fine with being on your ship and not trying to kill you. So at that point, yeah, I get it. You're trying to show off. And that's Sea of Thieves. Sea of Thieves is the catwalk pirate simulator, if you will. But I think it would be great to have a way to have my pet out without it being a liability in combat, and something that's not going to give me away if I try to go running around an island and somebody's hiding on the island or doing something, digging, and I hide in a barrel and my stupid little parakeet is like flying around me, showing that there's clearly a pirate nearby. I've done the work of eating, I've eaten the smelly fruit that is made the mermaids leave. But if I have a pet, then I have to dismiss it. What if I want to have the pet out? I just got to give up the fact that that's a caveat that I have to survive with. If Fortnite can come through with this and have it be something that they're committed to, and they've thought ahead of how that's going to be a deterrent as a visible tell that someone is nearby, if they've worked that out, I can't imagine that it's that hard. We're working with Unreal here, so clearly it's possible. Now, Rare isn't on Unreal 5, and it may be an option that's Unreal 5. I'm not a coder. I'm not a developer. But I do think that if I'm going to spend money on stuff in the Pirate Emporium, it'd be fantastic if I didn't feel like it was going to cause me harassment from another crew while I'm trying to be sneaky or act as a liability when I'm in the middle of combat, or even just trying to do stuff around the ship. How many times have you guys accidentally picked up your pet while trying to do stuff around your ship and you're like, well, okay, you're going back in the chest. I am done picking you up randomly when I'm trying to get stuff. I have 2 hours of my life where I'm not bothered by anyone and I can play Sea of Thieves, and all I want to do is go hunt the shrouded ghost, knowing it doesn't exist, and just enjoy that sense of like, maybe tonight, and then just grabbing your white cat and who's named Shrouded or Ghost, and just being completely frustrated. Stuff like that is the thing that I think many people kind of run into. And it seems like Fortnite has figured out the quality of life fix that Rare could implement if enough people were vocal about that being a thing that would actually encourage them to want to use their pets. Because I would love to see if there's even data on that. Like, how many crews out there are getting into combat and have their pets active while they're in combat? And if they do have their pets active and they get into combat, how long between the times when they start to engage in content before they go and dismiss their pet, either through the chest or through the menu system? Analytics that I have no clue if they even track, but would be fascinating to find out. How long do people stay in combat before they get tired of picking up their pet to grab a cannon? So that's going to do it for this episode, folks. Again, apologies that it's a shorter episode, but there's lighter news and I don't really have a ton of time to go digging into stuff. These were the things that I was literally thinking about before and after I went on the trip. I'm going to go catch up on some sleep after I finish scarfing the fast food that I picked up. But I hope you guys all have a fantastic week, an excellent launch. Let me know what your thoughts are about the quick swap, and get your Twitch drops. Don't forget about your Twitch drops. That's starting on Friday. Okay. All right, Pirates. That's going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for supporting. I love you all. I love the patrons. I love the fact that you guys are continuing to support this podcast, even with the decline in gameplay from people just not playing the game as much anymore. The dedicated hardcore group of the podcast. I love you all so much. Even the ones that are just in there hanging out and just staying in the Discord just for the sake of seeing what happens, just in case something cool happens. I know most of you guys probably have channels muted and stuff, and I don't blame you, because everyone's got 1,500 Discord. Everybody and their grandmother has a Discord server, and everyone's a part of it too, and I'm not quite sure why, but I appreciate that you're in the Discord. It really does brighten my day to kind of go through and see what folks are doing and stuff like that. So anyway, Pirates, thank you. I love you. And I look forward to sailing with you on the Sea of Thieves.